Abdul Razak, KA15019, would like to present about introduction and also concept of defense in Islam. So, shall we begin? Firstly, a number of people today view Islam as a hostile and an aggressive religion. This stereotype has been sadly reinforced by the act of terrorists and also fanatics, who in no way represent what Islam truly stands for. They hijack the religion and consequent media attention for their own selfish and evil goals. That is why today the world's opinion towards Islam as a violent religion. As we can see from this slide, these are the things that what the media, the society, and also the world actually thinks that we do, and also what we really do. Yet, the truth is, the religion of Islam, described by Allah in the Quran, stands for peace and tolerance. It does not encourage terrorism. So, for the introduction, it can be divided into two, which are defense and jihad. Defense, a natural right. Firstly, defense, it belongs not only to man, but also to every living creature for its survival. If a living being cannot defend itself, it is doomed to destruction. Allah has provided all creatures with the means of defense which enable them to survive and defend their legitimate rights. Islam too has given man the right to defense and considers it to be the chief guarantee for survival of humanity and life of monotheistic religions. It is clearly pointed out by the Quran that the right of defense is something natural. It can be based on Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 251, which means, had God not driven back the people, some by means of others, the earth had surely been corrupted. And also by Surah Al-Hajj, had God not repelled some people by others, certainly the cloister and churches and synagogues and mosques in which Allah's name is much remembered would have been destroyed. Therefore, in the above-mentioned verses, it clearly be seen that defense has been regarded as the cause of averting corruption of the human world and as the major cause of survival of values and continuity of existence of centers of worship of God, and also consequently continuity of monotheism. Next, move on to jihad, which is a legal and a natural right. The concept of endurance and defense in Islam is reinforced by the introduction of jihad to incite Islamic military spirit in spreading Islam. Following verses of Surah Al-Hajj were the first to be revealed about jihad. Besides, from Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 190, it also orders Muslims to fight oppressor and aggressor, and most of the verses on this subject relate to defensive jihad. Now, we move on to the concept of defense in Islam. First, aggression is forbidden. Fighting is permitted only in self-defense. Second, life is sacred. And third, absolute freedom to believe or no compulsion in religion. Aggression is forbidden. Fighting is only allowed in self-defense. So the Quranic verses on this are very clear. Allah repeat, do not aggress multiple times. Only if attacked is one permitted to fight back. If the other party refrains from aggression and offers one peace, we are told to stop fighting. Life is sacred. The killing of innocent civilians by suicide bombers and terrorists is strongly condemned in the Quran. Taking any life, except in the course of justice, is strictly forbidden. Even so, capital punishment is discouraged. Thus, those who commit these horrible acts are clearly not Muslim, rather very evil people who try to justify their hatred and action using Allah's name. Based on Surah Al-Isra, verse 33, you shall not kill any person, for God has made life sacred. Lastly, absolute freedom to believe or no compulsion in religion. So, Islam does not recommend or justify killing of disbelievers or those who decide to leave the religion. Allah's message is very clear in the Quran that there is no compulsion in religion. Free will is one of Allah's precious gifts to humanity, and human beings cannot take away what Allah gave man. If someone does not wish to believe, they are to be left alone and not forced in any manner. A Muslim job is simply to invite people to Islam with kind enlightenment. Thus, it can be clearly seen that Islam did not encourage its ummah to kill any person except for justice, and also that life is very precious.
So we have come to an end. I hope with this sharing it will bring benefit to you and also add some additional knowledge about concept of defense in Islam. That's all from me. Thank you. Assalamualaikum.
Assalamualaikum and good afternoon to my lecturers, Asa and my fellow friends. My name is Nur Fatin Shazwana binti Asman. I would like to continue with the important terms used in Islamic defense. The first important terms used in Islamic defense is fatwa. Fatwa means legal opinion of an alim binding on him and on those who follow his taqlid. Fatwa bermaksud daripada perkataan afta iftaan yang bermaksud menjelas dan menghuraikan hukum permasalahan, iaitu jawapan yang dibuat oleh mufti kepada perkara yang berlaku apabila diajukan soalan kepadanya. Untuk pengetahuan semua, terdapat 14 orang mufti di Malaysia. Second one is fiqh. Fiqh means jurisprudence built around the Sharia by custom, al-urf. Literally means deep understanding, refers to the understanding of the Islamic law. Fiqh bermaksud memahami agama secara menyeluruh. Tujuan mempelajari fiqh adalah untuk mengetahui hukum hakam syarak mengenai setiap tingkah laku manusia dan melaksanakan hukum di dalam kehidupan. The third one is ijma'. Ijma' means the consensus of either the ummah or just the ulama'. Ijma' is one of the four bases of the Islamic law. Ijma' bermaksud kesepakatan para ulama' di dalam menetapkan sesuatu hukum dalam agama Islam berasaskan Al-Quran dan Hadis. Salah satu dalil daripada Al-Quran mengenai ijma' sebagai sumber hukum yang bermaksud, wahai orang-orang yang beriman, taatlah kamu kepada Allah dan taatlah kamu kepada Rasulullah dan kepada ulil amri, iaitu orang-orang yang berkuasa dari kalangan kamu. Kemudian, jika kamu berbantah-bantahan, berselisihan dalam sesuatu perkara, maka hendaklah kamu mengembalikannya kepada kitab Allah, iaitu Al-Quran dan sunnah Rasulnya, jika kamu benar beriman kepada Allah dan hari kiamat. Yang demikian adalah lebih baik bagi kamu dan lebih elok pula kesudahannya. Surah An-Nisa ayat 59. The fourth one is ijtihad. During the early times of Islam, the possibility of finding a new solution to a juridical problem. Ijtihad bermaksud proses penyelidikan yang serius dan dilakukan bersungguh-sungguh oleh sarjana Islam iaitu mujtahid untuk menerbitkan hukum hakam yang bersifat amali. The fifth one is istislah. Istislah means public interest, which is one of the source of Islamic law. Next is qiyas. Qiyas means analog foundation of legal reasoning and thus fiqh. Qiyas bermaksud perbandingan antara suatu hukum di dalam perkara yang baru wujud dengan perkara yang telah ada hukum sebelumnya di dalam Al-Quran dan Sunnah. Terdapat 4 rukun qiyas. Yang pertama ialah masalah utama, al-ansh, masalah cabang, al-far'u, hukum masalah utama, al-hukmu, dan yang keempat alasan, al-sabab. Next is syahid. Syahid usually refers to a person killed with fighting in jihad fi sabilillah, jihad for the sake of God. Syahid bermaksud Muslim yang maut ketika berperang atau berjuang di jalan Allah untuk membela kebenaran. Rasulullah bersabda, barang siapa yang terbunuh kerana membela hartanya, maka ia syahid. Terbunuh kerana membela agamanya, maka ia syahid. Terbunuh kerana membela dirinya, ia syahid. Dan terbunuh kerana membela keluarganya, ia syahid. Hadis riwayat Ahmad, Tirmizi, An-Nasa' dan Abu Daud. Next is Sharia. Sharia means the path to a watering hole. is the eternal ethical code and moral code based on Al-Quran and Sunnah, which is the basis of fiqh. Syariah dari segi bahasa bermaksud jalan yang lurus. Dari segi istilah, apa yang disyariatkan oleh Allah SWT kepada hamba-Nya pada perkara agama, hukum hakam yang berbeza. Next is suth. Suth is derived from the Arabic word musalaha, which is the tool at the disposal of an Islamic commander to be offered. Suth bermaksud perbincangan damai. Next is taqlid, to follow the scholarly opinion of one of the four imams of Islamic jurisprudence. Taqlid bermaksud menurut jumhur ulama usul mengikuti perkataan ataupun perbuatan orang lain tanpa meneliti dalilnya ataupun penerimaan hukum-hukum daripada seorang imam tertentu. And the last one is urf. Urf means custom of a given society leading to change in the fiqh. Urf bermaksud makrifah, iaitu pengetahuan, dan maksudnya disesuaikan kepada sesuatu yang makruf dan sikap yang dianggap baik oleh akal yang sejahtera. Terimalah apa yang mudah engkau lakukan dan suruhlah dengan perkara yang baik serta berpalinglah, jangan dihiraukan orang-orang yang jahil, yang degil dengan kejahilannya. Surah Al-A'raf ayat 199. Thank you, that's all from me. So I will pass to my friends Mazuni.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good afternoon to my lecturer, Sir Asa, and my fellow friends. I am Mazini binti Mustafa from FTech, and I will continue for the next part of the topic, which is Principle of Islamic Defense.
The principle of Islamic defense has been used in order to get a peaceful and harmony environment. The migration of the Prophet ﷺ and his companions to Medina has succeeded in forming a solid and intact society through a peace agreement under the Islamic rulers with non-Muslims, including Jews. The principles of agreement are as follows. First, freedom of religion. Second, understanding life. Third, prohibition against each other. Fourth, cooperate in defending the safety of the Medina. The principle of Islamic military is in safeguarding the security of the country. Domestic disorder itself, such as fighting rebellion or rebellion al-Burah, and Rasulullah SAW has mentioned before, which is surely there will be after my time, here and there, which mean groups. So whoever you see breaks from the society of the Ummah or try to divide the Ummah of Muhammad, in any case you shall fight. That shows the principle of Islamic military or defense is very strong since before in order to protect the society. Military in Islam is just a preparation in the face of any possible external relations, and among the principles that are used in Malaysia, which are referred to the Prophet ﷺ before, is first freedom of da'wah and maintaining akidah, which can be explained as a good external relations include preserving the faith and faith of undefiled Muslim and freedom of preaching as well as freedom of religion. Second, maintaining sovereignty and state security, which means the military required by Islam is a force or an organization that can be exploit the enemy. That is a powerful and efficient force with enough modern equipment. Next is uphold justice and defense. Islamic military is also to ensure justice is realized by following Islam. This struggle to provide defense, protection, and oversight to those who are persecuted. The last one is defend yourself and life. Islamic militants also play a role in the struggle of self-defense and life from enemy violence. These principles is very important in the future now. In Islamic law defense now, Crimes are classified in three ways, which is hudud, qisas, and takzir. These three laws are from the past generation and being applied to Malaysia. And the first one we will look with hudud. Hudud is divine punishment, the category of crimes most egregious and therefore most severely punished. And hudud crimes are those specifically mentioned in the Quran and transgressing the limits which God Himself has placed on people's behavior. Hudud crimes are such as theft, highway robbery, drinking alcohol, unlawful sexual intercourse, and false accusation of uncased. Next is about qisas. It is a Muslim law where the right of a person who has suffered corporeal injuries by the act of another to inflict or have inflicted similar injuries upon the aggressor. The qisas crimes are murder, manslaughter, and any physical injury to another, intentional or unintentional. And for those who may be subjected to the sometimes severer, if not barbaric punishments provided for qisas, the option of a diya resolution may be available, particularly if the victim or the victim's family are prepared to accept financial settlement. If the victim of a qisas crime is a woman, then the physical or corporal punishment, retaliatory punishment is unavailable and only diya may be imposed, and then the amount of being equivalent to half that of a male. Lastly, takzir. Takzir is a Muslim law where it is mean discretionary and corrective punishments for minor crimes. In contrast to hudud and qisas, lesser crimes are punished at the discretion of the court and are called takzir. So that is the meaning or definition of the takzir crimes. And for example, on the basis the use of narcotics such as cocaine, hash, and marijuana has more recently been added to the list of taxi crimes. So that's all for my part.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Nur Amira Aini binti Ismail, and I will be presenting on the characteristic features of Islamic defense system. So before I start my presentation, I would like to highlight a verse from Surah Al-Anfal, which is verse 60. This verse brings the meaning of, and prepare against them whatever you are able of power and of steeds of war by which you may terrify the enemy of Allah and your enemy and others besides them whom you do not know but whom Allah knows. And whatever you spend in the cause of Allah will be fully repaid to you, and you will not be wrong. From this verse, we are encouraged to build and develop our power in preparing ourselves to fight against our enemies. It is not only about the power of military and weapons, but it also covers the power in terms of physical strength, mental strength, and spiritual strength. And this can be related to the Islamic defense system. First one is the strategic ties between the countries and the Ummah of Islam and the importance of good relations with all countries. Islam is a religion that calls on good relations with all parties instead of seeking enemy. Even the concept of Islam is fighting against disbelief and not fighting the infidels. Next is strengthen spiritual aspects. With internal strength, it gives advantage, and this is the main secret of strength of Muslims. Among the methods of strengthening the spiritual aspect are the practices of zikir, prayer, wirid, and solat tahajjud prayers. System implementation for security and defense aspects is also the characteristic features of Islamic defense system. It is to launch and standardize the process and mechanism of steady and ready to prepare inventory at any time. Other than that, spirit of jihad is also included. It can be defined of fighting the ignorant and all forms of disbelief to strengthen the religion of Allah, as well as struggle in fighting against God's enemies and the enemy of the nation, defending religion and truth.
The fifth characteristic feature is practice of patriotism values for loyalty and sacrifice to the country. It helps to foster and develop self-esteem in order to serve the homeland and the nation, and also helps in being ready to sacrifice and have a highly fighting spirit for truth and justice. Lastly, effective and continuous training. It is to ensure that defense personnel are always ready, skilled, and proactive. Physical strength becomes a must in addition to mental and spiritual strength. To conclude, the strength of Islamic defense itself is the agenda of Islam Hadari's approach. Islam Hadari is the theory of government that based on the principles of Islam as derived from the Quran. It is the most important aspect in ensuring the continuity of Islam Hadari's principle in building civilization of the people and the nation. It also encompasses aspects of safety, security, strategic research, weapons, equipment, and human capital. And the most important thing is it meets the Islamic demands that call upon its people to have the power in all aspects of the outward and spiritual aspects of generating good to the Ummah and the country.